are you kidding? So I call them up, and basically what I found out was they don't look for fraud. That's not what they do. They just call the vendor or the merchant and ask if they will refund them the money. Right? Hey, we think there's fraud. Will you refund this? If they say yes, well, then they give you that money back. If the merchant says no, then they call you and go, oh, sorry, no fraud.
Wherever you guys are watching this show, I would truly appreciate it if you follow or subscribe. It helps a lot with the algorithm. It helps us get bigger and better guests, and it helps us grow the team. Truly means a lot. Thank you guys for supporting, and here's the episode. All right, guys, Mikey Taylor in the building, former pro skateboarder, now managing a $200 million real estate fund. What's up, my man?
What's going on? What's cracking?
What a journey.
It's been a crazy journey.
Yeah, you don't see many ex-pro skateboarders take the journey you have, I think.
No.
Diving
for
into
better, for worse.
Yeah, diving into the business space. Was that a quick transition, or did you feel kind of lost after you retired from skateboarding?
Well, my transition started, I was still a skateboarder. Like my first business was a craft brewery, and I did it while I was heading towards the tail end of my career. So I had maybe 4 years of doing both. And then we sold the brewery and my skate career ended almost at the same time. Then I got hit with the purpose issue. Right. You know, like building a business was amazing, but I was still holding my identity in skateboarding. And so, yeah, I probably had a year or so of like, who am I? Felt lost. I mean, the whole nine, everything you hear about.
Yeah, because your whole life was skateboarding prior to that,
That's
right?
it. Yeah, from the second I was a kid until 34.
Wow. Almost 30 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And you started making money off it like at an early age, teenage years, right?
Kind of. I started getting free product. I had companies sending me free, skateboards and shoes, but they weren't paying me. But I was selling some of the stuff to, the other skaters, like the hand-me-down stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was making a little bit of money there. I wasn't officially getting paid till I was about 19.
Okay. And how insane is the money at the pro skateboarding level if you win competitions? Is it really
This
big
small.
bucks? Oh, it's nothing?
Nothing. No, there's like a handful of guys. Like, Nyjah makes good money. Paul Rodriguez, like some of the, household names, Sheckler, Rob Dyrdek. But like, no, most skaters don't make that much. Most skaters don't make over 100K.
Interesting. So it's similar to tennis.
Very similar.
Yeah, because tennis, the top, I think 100 players in the world make money, but outside of that, you're losing money.
100%. Like, skaters, I don't think necessarily losing money because you don't have to go to tournaments.
Right.
But I don't know if I were to like average it out, 60K a year.
Damn. So you were doing it straight out of passion then. Money wasn't even...
I was making a little bit more. Okay. I was in kind of like what we refer to as like the golden era of skateboarding, at least from a financial standpoint. So I was making, I don't know, 150 or so. And then I had a couple years I had a shoe that did really well. So I had kind of some standout years, but like nothing like out of this world, not like other pro sports.
Got it. But back then, 150 is a good amount.
It was crazy for me. Yeah.
Especially in your 20s.
Totally. That's
what
right.
ages did you peak in terms of skill?
Oh, gosh. Skill, I peaked probably 27.
Okay, that's pretty young.
Yeah, but I would say brand peaked at like 32, 33.
Got it.
My brand kept getting bigger. Even though my talent, I think, peaked, I started figuring out how to really market and how to build an audience.
Right.
And then I created more demand for myself, so I was selling way more product. But yeah, from like a skill standpoint, yeah, probably 27.
Interesting. So were you studying like Tony Hawk a little bit, seeing what he was doing? And
no, I was following Rob Dyrdek more than anything.
Rob Dyrdek. Okay.
Yeah. Tony was cool for us to watch because he was tapping into like, uncharted territory. But there was a part of it that felt like he was like a unicorn in a sense. Like he kind of became the kind of Kelly Slater type. Rob Dyrdek felt like he was more like creating his own path that could be duplicated. And so I was paying attention to him more than anything.
I pay attention to him right now.
Yeah,
honestly.
me too. Yeah.
His work ethic.
It's great. The time efficiency, it's nuts.
It's nuts. I mean, I don't live as calculated, but it is a little inspiring to see someone live.
I don't know if anybody lives as calculated. So.
It's too robotic for me. I like some sort of nuance.
Yeah. I mean, he's a like skaters are like kind of by nature obsessive. Like, we get into something, it's all we can pay attention to.
Right.
I mean, he follows that mold.
Yeah. If you're a skater, you need to be very detail oriented because one slip up and you're injured.
Right.
Did you have any bad injuries when you were skating?
You know what? Not a lot, actually. Okay. Not as many. I mean, you would think like I'd have like broken legs and ankles. Like I broke my hand one time. Basically, that was it.
That's probably normal if you're a pro skateboarder.
It depends. Some people are getting hurt all the time. Like Sheckler's hurt all the time. I think it's more a different, like, for me, I felt very calculated with how I skated, right? Where there's other skaters who are like, I'm just going for this. It's make or break.
Right.
Well, it's, risk reward.
Yeah, there's some crazy tricks. So you aren't attempting any ridiculous stunts or anything?
Depends who you ask. Like, like you might think so, but I don't know. The stuff I did, I felt like it was more tame.
Okay. So after you sold that company and retired, what was that next step? Did you get into real estate from there?
Yeah, it took me probably about a year though.
Okay.
We sold our business at the end of 15, and then I had 2 other partners. So we kind of all went different directions. One of my partners stayed in alcohol. My other partner went into built a clothing business, and then I eventually started my private equity firm. But yeah, it probably took me a full year of like figuring out some of the deeper stuff.
Yeah.
No,
it's
like
a
if
real
I'm not a
thing.
skater, what am I? And
Yeah, you see it with a lot of pro athletes. You see it,
common.
yeah, with a lot of business owners that have the same business for 10, 20 years. When they sell it, they feel kind of lost.
Right. Right. So you had to go through that.
I bet you did. But eventually you got the fund going. Now you're managing $200 million. Is that accurate?
Yeah, a little bit more. Maybe about 250, but
Wow.
yeah.
In 6 years.
Yeah, we've been going for it.
And to be able to get to that number, obviously you got to be producing good results.
Right.
I saw one of your posts averaging 21.3% IRR on one of the funds, which is incredible in real estate.
That's that number is our overall average return for our equity funds. We have a debt fund as well. So on the equity side, that's it. And it's been, look, I have great people around me. That's what it comes. I mean, you know this.
Right.
You surround yourself with great people, and you put yourself in a position where great things can happen.
Yeah. And you're just facilitating, right? So you found the experts in real estate and you had access to people with money and you kind of connected the dots.
Yeah. So basically, to really go more niche on it, I am not an operator. I never have been. I never will be. So anytime I've ever started a business, I'm typically looking at who's going to be the COO. That's usually like right off the bat. This last business, it was making them a partner right away. I am not a analytical person. It's just not my gift. So CFO or CIO was right away. There were key people that I brought in to form the company, and then we started hiring from that point on. But yeah, it was, to give you more context, I came from, we built a craft brewery. Very different than, building a equity firm or selling a security, right? But at the end of the day, business is business, right? It's like you have one path that brings in your revenue, you have your expenses, and you have your leftover, right? You just might have to learn the maybe nuances of the industry, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. So it didn't take me long to figure out how fund management worked, but there was probably a good year of having to educate myself.
Right.
Did
you have to get any licensing or anything?
No.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, the licensing is more for if you're selling real estate, if you're raising money and you want to get paid to raise money, that's a licensed activity. That's you need it for that. That's not what I did.
Yeah.
I started the company. I have my, interest in the business, and then I have I make an income as well.
Right.
So I don't get paid to raise capital. I raise capital for the firm, but I don't get paid to do it.
Got it. That makes sense. And we were talking before this about the strategy, which I thought was interesting. Most funds, they just buy and hold, right? Just properties, but you're building from ground zero.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we develop. So we have 2 strategies. We have our strategy for multifamily, and then we have our strategy for storage. Storage, we buy vacant big box retail. So a Walmart, a Kmart, a Bed Bath & Beyond, these huge footprints go out of business, right? And these days, it's hard to fill that type of space with a new operator, right? How many companies will take that space these days? How many Amazons can you have, right? And so they sit vacant. And so we have learned how to find basically a vacant asset in an area that has high demand and repurpose it into storage. So basically when you drive up, it looks like you're driving into a Kmart and it's a, Cube Smart or a Life Storage.
Right.
So that's our storage. And then a multifamily, we try to buy distressed assets in California, scrape them, and build apartments.
And how difficult is it on the building side? Because I've heard horror stories, getting permission from the local governments and all that. Is that an annoying process for you?
Depends where you're investing. California, it's probably the hardest state to invest in.
Wow.
Yeah.
How come?
That's a good question. It depends on your point of view. To simplify it, there's policies that our state operates on that are heavily regulated, and that takes time to get anything through it. So, somewhere in Texas might take you 6 months to get through, your entitlements and permits. In California, it's close to 3 years.
Damn.
Right? So that's a big one. And then two, our state has, we have done a very bad job building, right? Like we built a bunch up to the financial crisis hits, and then we basically like stepped off the gas. So over the last 10 years, we've only averaged about 100,000 new residential units each year. And today we have a 2 million unit shortage.
Wow.
So it's look, our state is not in a healthy place as it pertains to the amount of people looking for somewhere to live. It's severely unbalanced.
Yeah, what a deficit. That's probably why real estate prices are so high out there.
Exactly.
Especially LA.
Exactly.
Man, I can't buy out there.
Yeah.
I used to live in an apartment out there, and I'm paying the same price for a house out here.
Yeah.
A 5-bedroom house as a 2-bedroom apartment in LA.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even peak LA, it was Woodland Hills.
Yeah, that's right. It's
crazy.
Yeah, it's great. It's nuts, man. It really is nuts.
Yeah, they got to figure out how to solve that, man. Are you interested in coming on the Digital Social Hour podcast as a guest? Well, click the application link below in the description of this video. We are always looking for cool stories, cool entrepreneurs to talk to about business and life. Click the application link below, and here's the episode, guys.
Well, the state's taking it one way, and we'll see if it works.
We'll see. Have you been Cali your whole life?
Born and raised.
Okay.
Yeah.
No plans on leaving?
Well, I recently ran for city council.
Oh, nice.
And I got elected last year, so I have 3 more years on my term.
Ooh.
So definitely not in the next 3. My goal is so that I never have to leave. Yeah, so hopefully that comes true.
I'd love to see it, man, because they really peaked, and I feel like they've gone a little downhill.
A little. I mean, think about when you say California these days. Like you're rolling the dice on how somebody's going to respond to that, right?
Yeah.
If you would have asked somebody 20 years ago, California's the place to be. It was, in my perspective, and I would say the majority of people throughout the nation, California was the best state we had.
Right.
That's where everything was happening. California, New York. Now, I mean, we have more people leaving than we have staying. So it's like, to me, that's showing that our state's dropped the ball.
Yeah. Now Vegas is eating at it a little bit. Miami.
I mean, look at the Carolinas are crushing.
Carolinas, Nashville.
Right? Nashville. Even like when you have like Alabama crush it, you're like, what is going on?
Yeah. Cali's got the weather, though. That's one thing that'll never go away.
Yeah, that's right.
The weather out there is beautiful.
That's right.
In terms of buying, any particular cities or areas you're focusing on for real estate?
On our storage stuff, it's all over the place.
Okay.
It's because we look for, so there's more to it, right? Like you have big box retail that is vacant everywhere. Right? Cities don't like storage though. So it's very difficult to find the asset that the city will allow you to do this in, right? Anytime I talk about this on social media, my DMs are flooded with, I have this property, right? Finding the property is not the challenge, it's the city. And because of that, it makes it really hard to like hone in on one area, where multifamily, it's really easy to do so. So right now, our next storage property is in Indianapolis, Indiana. On the multifamily side, it's Ventura County, and San Diego. Those are like the 2 main focuses. And it's just because they're 2 of the most undersupplied cities in the entire nation.
Got it.
So that's where we're going.
And how are you identifying that they're undersupplied?
So a couple ways. One, you typically have a state, state of the economy. And then you have them regionally. So there's counties and then there's cities. We look at those basically studies that come out.
Got it.
And go, okay, Ventura County, 31,000 units short. San Diego, 108,000 units short. Oh, let's go look there.
Simple enough. People overcomplicate things, I think.
I think so too.
On the storage side, why do you like storage so much? Is it good monthly income with people renting out the storage?
Yeah, storage cash flows. But the reason why I've always liked it is because how it performs during recessions. Like that. Look, we kind of experienced this over the last 2020. Even though I don't even think that was a real recession, but everything's good until it's not. Right? Everybody's making money. Everybody feels good, and all of a sudden there's a downturn.
Right.
And what happens is, those that don't have assets that can withstand that, you're stressing out in survival mode. You're panicking, trying to not lose everything you have. And it takes you off or out of the game to actually buy things at a discount, right? So what I've always liked about storage is through recessions, they perform incredible. And so I always wanted to be put in a position where when things get bad, I can buy. I don't want to be stuck scrambling during that time. So I was really attracted to it for that reason. And then, they're cash machines.
Yeah.
They do well.
And that's an important mindset, I think, to have in real estate, because every 10, 20 years, there's a big recession in real estate, right? The '08 one wiped out.
Usually happens sooner than that. It's usually every 10.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, the '08 one, I remember just being a kid and seeing my friends' families like losing their jobs, and it was pretty traumatic, honestly.
2008 was brutal. Yeah, people forget quick how bad that was.
Dude, that was terrible. But you weren't even in real estate then, right?
I owned my home
Okay.
at that point. I had the majority of my money in stocks and bonds, and I was terrified. I was scared shitless.
Yeah.
Everybody that I looked up to, even like looking at my parents, and everybody's losing money. Like significant amounts. I remember my father-in-law, who wasn't my father-in-law at this time, goes, I just lost half of my portfolio.
Damn.
Now, he didn't sell it, so it wasn't a realized loss.
Right.
But, there was panic in the air. And, dude, I felt that. I didn't know what I know today.
Yeah.
So my first, thought was I need to sell before it gets worse. Thank God I didn't, but that was the vibe.
Yeah, I think the people that sold, they didn't have that safety net, so they had to.
Right.
And, yeah, they got wrecked.
Right. Yep, that was a bad one.
That was terrible. One of your most interesting posts, you don't use debit cards anymore.
Hell no.
I got to hear why.
No. So the thing that sucks, I don't use debit cards. That's the thing that kills me. But I have a debit card in my wallet.
Okay.
Right? This was probably 2 months ago. I'm at dinner. I think this was it. But I'm at dinner with my family, and my wallet falls out of my pocket, and I have a daughter. She's 1.5 years old. So she's on the ground playing, right? Before I know it, my credit cards are all over the place, right? About 3 hours later, I get all these alerts on my phone. Phone just starts blowing up. Purchase, flight to Miami, flight to Europe, flight, right? And every single credit card is flashing fraud. Just $1,000 a year, $1,500 a year, $1,000 a year, right? So I call all my credit cards. I was like, hey man, I got a fraud. I have fraud. It happens on my debit card. Right? So I call my bank. Hey, I have fraud. We run through all the charges. Long story short, all the credit card companies go, don't even trip. We got you. Send me a new card. Done deal.
Right.
My bank does the same, except I get a letter, a month later, saying we've investigated the situation and we have found no fraud. Right? And I'm like, at first I was like, what are you telling me? I'm a liar? Are you kidding? So I call them up, and basically what I found out was they don't look for fraud. That's not what they do. They just call the vendor or the merchant and ask if they will refund them the money, right? Hey, we think there's fraud. Will you refund this? If they say yes, well, then they give you that money back. If the merchant says no, then they call you and go, oh, sorry, no fraud.
Wow.
Yeah, so you get no protection. It's your actual cash is at risk.
Yeah.
With debit, with credit, it's credit. So there's protection there. Now what I do is not only do I not use debit, that thing doesn't go anywhere near me at all.
Yeah.
It's stuck in my drawer at home.
I'm not using it. This happened to me this morning. Someone got my ACH numbers, routing an account, and paid off all their credit cards, 10 G's.
That's not good.
And I don't even know if I'll get that money back because it's in a checking account.
Yeah, that's not good.
So yeah, I love credit cards. Plus you get all the points and stuff.
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of stuff I disagree with Ramsey. But there's a part of him that I go, yeah, that's actually good, right? And I think that from a young age, there was a part that was instilled in me, which was don't ever go into bad debt. Never. And I was so programmed that way that even my view of credit cards was, yeah, use credit cards because having credit is important. But don't go off and buy things you can't afford just to play the point game to buy other things, right? My perspective's changed a little bit. I still am on the point thing. I think if you're you can get points, great. But I think for the majority of people, don't even play the game. Use credit, pay it off every month in full, no matter what, no exceptions. I think that's a fine strategy.
Yeah, I agree. There's some things I agree with him. I've used credit in really stupid ways and definitely shouldn't do that again. But also, just using it in smart ways.
Right.
Because there's 0% credit cards for a year.
Right.
That you could get.
Well, you know what? Where he's off is on the good debt. That's where he's really off. Right. you saw this video of him going viral. Somebody's like, if I gave you $1 billion for 10 years at 0%, would you take it?
He said no, right?
He said no.
Yeah.
Like that type of stuff. It's like, bro, I understand. Like you got to like hold down the brand, but like now you're kind of just playing yourself.
Yeah.
No, of course you would take that.
You could put that in a 4% index or whatever.
Put it in it. Yep.
Any other investments you're doing outside of real estate?
My business, that's it. Like our business only invests in commercial, basically, or multifamily storage. We have a debt fund, but it's real estate. Me personally, I still make investments. I just don't run any of them. I invested in my partner that I started the brewery with, started a handful of alcohol brands. I invested in him. Invested in a fintech company not that long ago, but it's all passive now.
Got it. So when you hear this advice of you need multiple, alleys, like 7, average millionaire has 7, I think, investments, what do you think of that?
I think there's more to it, actually. I think the best way to do it is to have 8 uncorrelated investments, right? This is the challenge. Like when you look at like the broad idea of how you invest, right? It's stocks, bonds, maybe a public REIT, right? And the idea is, well, yeah, they're not correlated. Like when stocks are bad, bonds are good. But when 2008 hit, even 2020, what happened to all 3 sectors? Right? They all got hit.
Right.
So it's hard to find things that aren't correlated anymore. So that's more my focus. It's like, okay, if I'm owning private real estate, apartment buildings, storage units, those aren't correlated to the market.
Right.
So that at least gives me 2 of those components. Then if I'm going to go on the debt side, private credit, that's a 3rd. So I think that's actually more valuable, having investments that don't pull the other down when things get bad. I think that's more important than having like 8 streams of income.
I love that. Have you always been this good at mitigating risk, or in your earlier years were you more risky, you'd say?
No, I became riskier, actually.
Oh,
yeah, I think I'm naturally risk adverse. Like my dad never took like crazy risks. He was a lot more calculated. I was always of that vein, especially like investing passively. Like I am totally good. Like you give me 10%, good. I don't need to like 4x my money in 6 months. I just don't.
Right.
But where I am very comfortable taking risk is when I'm driving. Like if I'm starting a business, there's a lot of risk there.
Right.
Totally comfortable with that.
Yeah, I feel that because you're more so betting on yourself.
That's right. That's right.
Are you using any AI in your businesses right now?
A little bit. We are bringing on this company now that's going to do all of our, basically when we have leads come in, right? You have your touch points of communication. You have your emails, your texts, somebody's reaching out as a setter or calling them to get you on a meeting. We now have, or we're bringing on an AI tool that does all the text messaging and all the emails to everybody who opts in. Not like a automated post. It's like a full AI tool.
Right.
So that's going to be the first like real one that's integrated. And then, we use it on like newsletters or, communications to investors. We're using like whatever, it's standard, but ChatGPT to help us clean up some of the language,
Shout out to ChatGPT, man.
I mean, dude, they did a good mainstream freaking approach for everybody to use.
Dude, I saw some stat. It was like they got 100 billion, something crazy, 100 million users faster than Google, Facebook by like 20x.
That was crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. All right. Some of your most viewed clips are in regards to tax strategies, saving money on taxes. You get a lot of hate in these comments, I noticed.
Yeah.
I wonder why. Why wouldn't you want to save on taxes?
Well, there's a handful of ways you could take this, right? One, I think most people don't want to pay taxes. I think that the overall census is taxation is robbery, right? But where I think the energy comes around is when it feels like wealthy people aren't paying taxes and those who aren't making money are, right? You look at like all the political figures, like there's so much narrative around, tax the rich because none of them are paying taxes.
Right.
That's not true. But there's an element of it where if you're a business owner or you understand what the tax code is, well, you don't have to pay as much in taxes. And so I think there's just a huge education component that if people understood that the tax code is built for incentive, right? It's 95% incentive. It's only 5% there to raise revenue. And basically the goal of the tax code is to influence investor behavior, right? If I want investment going into the energy sector, I'm going to say, okay, tax help, tax cuts, tax incentive. And what are you going to do? You're going to put money in the energy sector, right? So it's more a plan to grow the economy. And if you put your dollars where they want, you get to keep more of them, right? Real estate is one of those asset classes, right? The government doesn't own real estate. They're not in charge of building real estate, but they know that they need more of it. So they create tax incentives for us, right? This is a big one, 17, in the Jobs Act, the 100% bonus depreciation, right? You could purchase, if the building qualifies, you can purchase a building and basically depreciate the value of the asset in year one. Like that's massive.
Wow, that's a big write-off.
It's a huge one.
And they have that with cars, right?
Yep. I just went through that exercise.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
I got a Tesla Model X.
Oh, those are 6,000 pounds?
Yeah. I didn't know that at first, actually. Wow. Yeah. So that qualified. I mean, you have to use it. Like what you don't hear is like, oh, you could depreciate the whole thing year one and 100% of it and boom, you're good. Mm-hmm. You can only depreciate the percentage that you use it for business. And then there was a what would you call it? Phase out stage that both asset classes are going through. So you can only depreciate like 80% of it. But Congress is voting today on basically bringing the 100% depreciation back for 24, 25, and 26.
Let's go.
Yeah, which I think it's going to pass in the House, then it goes to the Senate. I think that's going to be back into play.
All right. I might have to get a car then.
Yeah.
If it gets to 100, I'm in.
That's right. That's right.
You saw when Trump paid zero in taxes, people freaked out.
Yep.
He did it for like the past 10, 20 years or something crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, wow, I'm doing something wrong because I'm literally paying more in taxes than Donald Trump.
Yeah, so it's learning how to show loss when you're making money, that's the name of the game, right? And it's easy for real estate investors to do it. I mean, the fool's a real estate investor as well, right?
Right.
I grew up, I had a friend who lived on my street who invested in apartment buildings. And now he's got thousands of doors, no investors, just him. He's mega wealthy. He's paid taxes in probably 20 years as well. Because he has so much loss that he's spitting off from these apartments, but it's not like loss that you're paying money for, right? But a lot of people refer to it as a paper loss. It shows that you had this depreciation loss, but no money came out of your pocket. So if your building's cash flowing, but it's showing a loss, that money's not taxable.
Interesting.
Right? And then they just never sell it. You just exchange them. And then you die and you pass it down and you don't pay taxes.
Yeah. There's so many ways. I literally just hired a tax advisor. Shout out to Jim Dew. And he's a beast, man.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, don't do this alone. Seriously.
Yeah.
Have a great CPA come in and help you.
I mean, there's so many ways. Like, there's charitable ways.
Yep.
I just learned a lot about this. So hopefully next year we'll save a ton of money.
There we go.
There we go, man. Mikey, it's been a pleasure. Where can people find you and learn about what you're doing?
My name on social media, Mikey Taylor. Pick the platform. I'm going to come up at the top, which is a cool thing.
Perfect. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for coming on, Mikey.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching. See you next week.